I think my ultimate goal is I want to derive God through physics.
Good luck. If you can do that, you will have done something that no one's been able to do.
That's my that's my
You're
that's
always going to
my
have the belief hurdle at some point in the calculation, right?
well, yeah, but you always have to have faith. Faith always comes in. And I think it's going to come in more and more as I'm starting to study more and more. Faith is a super critical
when you say
element.
derive, then you're not talking about truly logicking all the way through it then. Because at some point you're going to have faith in something that you cannot prove in a scientific way.
Yeah, all scientists do that. I mean, that's how they make these leaps. They're like, based on all this stuff that we've learned, I have a hunch that this thing over here, maybe a deeper level of understanding, are the cause of it. So now let's go try to figure out how can we run experiments to see if that's true or not.
That you have a theory until you
Yeah.
and you do your best to disprove the theory, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is where we discuss current events, personal growth, and any other random topic that crosses our minds. Our goal is to have a meaningful discussion that help us to see the topics we discuss more clearly. Our hope is we can help you expand your self-awareness, develop your critical thinking, and learn to be less reactive to the world around you. And most importantly, remember, be curious. If you like what you hear, like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. Hey, Chris, here we go. Happy Sunday today.
Happy Sunday, yes.
Podcast
It is
some
not
number.
podcast Friday. It is not podcast Saturday. It's podcast Sunday.
Yeah, how about that? That is crazy. And it's wintertime here now, Chris. It's getting cold.
I would say it's getting cold here, but I think our definitions are a little different.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we got into the 70s yesterday, and this week we're supposed to get into the 80s, so it's going to be a hot week.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't consider that cold. I think our high temperature yesterday was 50, so
Yeah, see, I'm fine with that. I'm got my jacket on. I'm ready to go.
There you go. All right. So what are we going to talk about today?
The fact that we're on Zoom instead of our normal.
I don't know what's going on with Riverside. It's just all the links you sent me were all goofed up and everything. It's the first time I've seen that problem happen.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck the problem with that. I think we had it happen once before, and we had to resort to Zoom. Same last time too.
Yeah,
But
the workflow is harder in Zoom because I love the transcription that Riverside gives you because everything's labeled with names and
because the mics pick up who's talking, right? Whereas the Zoom
mhm.
transcription doesn't.
It knows.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Zoom should be able to do that, right? Because we have separate feeds going in.
Yeah, I mean it should. Who knows if it does or not? Plus, it's low resolution. So then what I have to do is I have to break out the video as an audio transcript and put it in Descript so it can whatever, transcribe it, and then I feed that back in. So anyways, it's just more steps.
Yeah.
Zoom's good. I'm sorry, Riverside's good when it works. It doesn't seem to be that stable lately, though.
I wonder why.
I don't know.
Now, one thing I wanted to bring up, since we often talk about health and blood sugar, is
Oh, yeah.
I was watching Thomas DeLauer on YouTube, and he was talking about black cumin seed oil,
Oh, interesting.
black cumin seed oil. And the first few days I took it, it gave me heartburn
Yeah.
because it's cumin seed. So and I would have this kind of spicy taste in the back of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I noticed was, I think it dropped. Now this is anecdotal. I think it's dropped my my blood sugar by about 10 to 15 points.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
when I take it. So I'm gonna start fiddling with it and seeing if it actually does.
Yeah.
One of the problems I've got is I got a warning from the glucose monitoring company that the sensor they sent me is maybe not measuring correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got a bad batch or something. So it could be that. But I'll switch the sensor here in a day or two, and then I'll see what the numbers are looking like. But honestly, it seems to recover from a spike. Even when I eat something that that spikes my sugar, it seems to come down pretty quickly,
That's pretty cool.
which is much better metabolic health. So anyway, just something I thought I'd try because he mentioned it and I hadn't tried it before. And of all the supplements I've heard mentioned, it's the one that appears to have the best benefits that I've seen so far.
I think I'll try that and see. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
why not, right? You spend 10, 15 bucks on this and give it a try and see what it does.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Well, what else has been going on?
What else has been going on, Scott? I mean, you don't pay attention to the news much, do you?
No. The only thing I know is that there's some thing in Minnesota. There was some fraud thing or something, and that's all I know.
Wait, fraud thing in Minnesota?
Yeah, with whatever, some billion-dollar fraud thing going on. Like, what's his name? Whoever was trying to run for VP, I guess he's busted or whatever. But of course, he's denying everything. That's what you're supposed to do.
I don't know who we're talking about here.
Tim, whatever his name is.
Cook?
No, he was running for the VP.
Oh, not Tim Cook. Tim Cook is Apple. What are we talking about? Walsh.
Yeah, Tim Walsh or something. So there's a
Really?
bunch of like hootin' nanny about that, but I don't know if any of it's real or it's not. It's like who knows,
Who knows anymore with the news the way it goes.
Who knows anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I watch the nightly news, but it's all local stuff. So it's all like this car accident or this cat got saved or something like that. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I don't really watch the news because it's all just pretty much total nonsense manipulation. It's just it's crazy.
It is, and it always upsets me when they even drop the pretense of there's any value in what they're saying.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was. When Trump was talking about getting rid of taxes on tips.
Yeah.
Right. Just talking about it.
Yeah.
Not that it hadn't happened yet. Wasn't in Congress.
Yeah.
And the local news was going out and asking people what their opinion was on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, first of all, it's not news because it's not happening.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't happening yet, at least I should say. And they're going out and asking their opinion. I'm like, you're going to asking someone's opinion on paying less taxes.
Yeah. Of course they're going to say, yes, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. It's like when the news reporters talk about, when you saw that horrific accident, how did it make you feel?
Yeah, I know. with the mangled bodies with like gallons of blood dripping out. Did you like that?
I mean, why? That's not news. That's drama. That's
yeah, it's just entertainment. Yeah, exactly. They love that. Well, I took a class a long time ago. It was super expensive, but it told you how to get on the news.
Is that how you rate the quality, Scott? How much it cost?
Yeah, it's crazy, but it actually worked. I learned quite a few things. And basically all they want is they just want a story to get people's eyeballs. So the weirder, the freaker, they love that stuff, actually. They love it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it takes something out of the ordinary to trigger our I don't know, to trigger the attention sensor or whatever it is that in our head, right? We all see the same thing over and over and over again. So to get someone's attention, you got to break it up somehow.
I know you got to break it up, and I don't know whose fault it is. It's like, who do you blame more, the drug user or the drug pusher? It's like
the answer is yes,
because the drug pusher wouldn't exist without the need or the desire. So
yeah, well, right now we've got the country going after drug pushers.
Yeah.
In the past, we've gone after the drug users. I don't know that either's ever worked.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I don't know. And then you got the pharmaceutical companies that are the ultimate drug pusher, so.
Yes, they are. And in the U.S., they've got it good.
They've got it great, actually. Yes. So, Chris, back to why this podcast exists. It's how to think better.
All right. How to think better.
That's right. So you got to at least observe that all this stuff is nonsense. And you got to try to figure out, how do you sort through the actual signal from all of the noise?
Well, so what that means is there's got to be a kernel of information in there, right?
Of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Just like in a conspiracy theory, there's a kernel of factual information that forms.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
So if we look at all news as just low quality conspiracy theories, and if you're going to bother to pay attention to it, it's your job to decipher it, to figure out which parts of it actually make sense in a world that in your worldview.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
I think
hopefully you've
it's
got a
so
good worldview.
I think it's so interesting too to like watch the people who have been fired on Fox News, like Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, right? So they've got like a whole different sort of, you know, viewpoint on things. And then you watch independent media, like just these podcasters who get famous, and they got a whole different thing.
Well,
And
they're all going for the emotional niches that are out there,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
mean, they're all hitting those niches, and some of them are big niches. You
yeah.
know,
I know. It's like so,
and very profitable too.
yeah, they some of them make a ton of money. Actually, it's crazy. So yeah. So, anyways, I think for the three people that might be listening to this podcast, um, it's just know it's all nonsense, and you got to somehow sort through and get the real information. Which, I don't think going to Fox News or MSNBC or CNN. I think it's not worth even watching it. I think there's zero value in it.
Generally, I agree. I tend to find if you're going to watch the local news
Yeah,
of an area, I mean, most of it's fluff, local stuff that you're not going to necessarily care about, but it's
yeah,
probably going to have a lot less blatant, well, political bias at least. There'll be
I don't
bias
think
there,
so.
but it won't be as divisive.
Yeah,
And then anything that does make it onto there usually is not the really edgy stuff that comes on the other ones, right? So
yeah, yeah,
though they may have one of the national reporters come in, but they're usually not going to be quite the same kind of storyline. If you're
yeah.
going to MSNBC or you're going to Fox, you're going for the bias.
Well, yeah, you
You're
want
not
the
going for the
story,
information.
right? It's like, yeah, who cares what
Yeah.
the facts are? This is what I want it to be. So, like, great, we're gonna make you the cake just how you want it.
I mean, one of the things that like so now that I'm on a Microsoft computer, it defaults to every time I open up a new window, it defaults to MSN,
Okay,
and
there
I'm
you go.
like, okay, it defaults, and then I look at the titles of the stories.
Yes.
And the titles themselves already tell me exactly what the story is going to tell me as
Yeah.
far as the bias goes.
Yeah. Right.
Right. It's the title itself just shows the bias.
Yeah.
So being MSN, it's going to be heavily left
Yeah.
leaning. So I mean, I'm looking at this going, wait, is there any fact in what they're saying here at all?
There's probably a little bit, right? I mean, a tiny bit. It's they take an event and then of course, they're gonna see it how they see it, right?
They're going to see it how they see it, but that doesn't mean that you know. Maybe the part of the problem is with the YouTube echo chamber people get into, or the social media echo chamber people get into, is they want to hear the opinion. They don't really care about the fact.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
And this is the key to marketing is you don't really try to change anybody's mind. What you do is you go in and present information in a way that they want it to be true, and it works way better.
Yeah, I just wish I could take like reality factual information and spin a story that was interesting enough that people would believe it as opposed to a
Well,
conspiracy theory.
that's a skill, right? That's a skill.
Well, but that's a skill that beyond because it's easy to take things that are sensitive topics or kind of edgy or pushing the envelope and make people pay attention to them.
Yeah,
And you use those facts to tell a story, and people will remember those facts, and
yeah,
they'll want to believe it just because the emotions they feel when you use those facts.
yeah, yeah.
But if you're using like boring real facts about the way the world really is, it's going to be a much harder sell to tell a story that people remember.
Yeah, because nobody wants that. They want they want the drama. They want to be entertained, basically, right?
Hmm.
That's all, right? And their dopamine levels are so used to being so stimulated that they just need more and more and more to provide the same level of dopamine.
Well, I was watching PBS, and they were talking. And I don't know why they're going on big on Ken Burns, the historian who did the Civil War and all the other
Yeah,
American history stories that are out there, and like his style and how he was able to take still pictures and yet have video where he would have motion,
yeah,
he'd pan across a
yeah,
picture and that sort of thing. Um, And the idea of the storytelling involved in that, right? He spent way more time working on that project than the war actually took.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, because he wanted to tell stories. He had letters. He had people read. He had sound effects in the background. He used all these things to make it more memorable than just reading a book on Civil War.
Yeah, he wanted to like bring you into it, like you're there,
And one of the things they talked about was, photography was like 20 or 30 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there, because the negatives were those glass sheets they would use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And quite often those glass sheets, once they printed them, the picture, they would just get rid of them. Right. So they get rid of the negatives because it was too expensive to store and the like. And so they would find greenhouses where the windows were these old glass sheets that were people you would use. And so they would try to get some of those and try to restore some of the negatives. And it's just the whole story about how people do these things is just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It started. Yeah. People just want to capture stuff. They want to document stuff. Even like way back, I was looking at something just a few minutes ago about how written language was started. And they were saying the brain's not really designed to like read language, like written, like read. And so I think the Sumerians started scribbling little things like 3,500 years. So that'd be like almost over 5,000 years ago now, where they would like starting to do little symbols. And you see it in like cavemen, they're like, oh, there's a little lion and a guy with a spear, documenting the story. But before that, everything was just verbal. Everything was passed down, stories at the campfire.
Well, so you're bringing up a topic I've always found interesting is you've got your Asian languages, you've got your hieroglyphics, you've got these things that are pictograms. I mean, Japanese kanji, Chinese kanji is actually kind of pictographic, a lot of them, especially the old ones actually are pictures that have been drawn in that have changed shape. And one of the things I used to always wonder is, Japan and Asia itself has a very strong they like comics, right? Anime and whatever, all these other kind of comics that are out there. And to them, it's a cultural art form that they would use to tell, serious stories. You have history books that are done as comic books in Japan. Yeah, I mean, literally history books that are written that way. So you have a manga artist who'll sit there and get interested in something, and he writes a real factual book on history, but he's using comics. And so one of the things that it made me realize is I'm wondering how much of their desire to look at a comic and be able to process it quickly is tied to their language and the fact that it's very visual. It's a pictographic type of language.
Oh, interesting.
Versus ours, really, yes, when you get good at reading, you start seeing words and you translate the word directly into the thing, right? You don't actually have to translate the word apple into, an apple, that's a fruit, and the fruit looks like this. You actually see the apple when you see the word apple. But I think in Asian languages, quite often, they see the kanji character and they immediately get the idea behind it without going through any intermediate steps. So I'm wondering how, we know that language affects how we think. I wonder how written language affects how we think.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because it's definitely more layers of abstraction away from the actual event. It was so interesting. So I went to this church thing. It was like a men's retreat thing. It was like, I don't know, like 90 dudes. And it was cool. They had this sort of, fire inside and they had fire outside. And it evolved into like storytelling around the campfire, which is like, oh my gosh, this is probably the same way that, it was done thousands of years ago. And it evolved into some version of fish stories. You should have seen the fish I caught and how much trouble it was. And then, but I beat it and it was hard and I thought I was going to get away. And this fish was so big, it like jumped up and attacked me, but I managed to, wrangle it in. And then you see the picture. It's like this little tiny fish like this, it's like, well, And it's like that desire is like built in. It's like I think it's just built into our DNA, this storytelling thing. And so somehow we've evolved it from people sitting around a campfire telling you about their exploits in hunting or fishing or gathering wood or something, all the way up to the fine-tuned art of Fox News and MSNBC, but it's all the same thing.
You call it a fine-tuned art. I'm not sure that what they do is art.
Well, It depends on how you define art. I define art as like if you can create emotion in somebody, that to me is art.
All right, well then that's it. I mean, but doesn't like someone who physically beats people up, aren't they an artist? They cause emotions in people by that definition.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, let me redefine it. Maybe it's like you design, you inspire like a desire for more, like maybe a certain amount of pleasure, that comes from it.
It's hard. I know where you're going with this, but I think that also is limiting too, right? Because I don't think art necessarily is always pleasurable. It is about
it's
feeling.
Certainly,
right?
It's a desire to consume more of it.
Some people like some things make you feel sad.
Yeah,
but then you're happy to feel.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you describe that. Like, some things make you feel in a non-positive emotion, and yet experiencing that non-positive emotion is valued in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah. Like people, they want to go to like horror films intentionally be scared. It's like they and maybe
they want that adrenaline high.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's like it's just a series of chemicals that get released. And what ones do you want? You want dopamine, you want adrenaline. Do you want
so that means you could conceivably create like a stack of drugs that would hit all those emotions, and you could call it art.
Yeah, I think so, actually.
So people could go and consume art that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at like music, right? People get together, they listen to music. It's like literally, like I was watching this music video the other day, and these people were literally like drugged. They were like hypnotized by the band playing. It's like crazy. In mass hypnosis, like 30,000 people.
Is that hacking into some part of the brain that we all have?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. By you doing music. I mean, I know certainly if you look at the top performing like channels on YouTube, maybe not channels, but videos, it's always some form of entertainment.
Well, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it takes a lot more mental energy to learn something if it's not entertaining. If it's entertaining, your body's just much better able to take it in.
Yeah, like I'm just searching right now. Like, what are some of the top videos? I remember watching like one, I think it was like Adele or something, and she had over 1 billion views or something like that with a B. I mean, that's like crazy. Oh my God, look at this. Here's like 6.8 billion views, 7.1 billion views. And these are all... Hey, I think... Did they hit it here? Oh no, never mind. It's always some sort of entertainment video, seems like the top ones. Hey, even Wheels on Buses. Nursery rhyme, 8.2 billion views. That's crazy, Chris.
Well, that's because when you're a parent and you're trying to keep your kids happy, you go to that, and you probably go to that multiple times a day for a couple of years. So, I discovered at one point my daughter liked the My Little Pony characters, and so I went in and created a playlist of like all the My Little Pony songs, and she knew them all. So it kept her busy for like 15 minutes.
That is so crazy. Just think about the terms of the ultimate entertainment could be where you're literally like plugged in, where your brain's being directly stimulated by some Elon Musk like thing that connects up to your brain. And then you take some kind of drug, or a stack of drugs, and then you have this like ultimate experience.
So there was Larry Niven is like a 60s, 70s science fiction writer.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote a book called Ringworld, and I think we may have talked a little bit about it. The making a ring around the sun, the distance of the Earth, and it just spins around, and you have this huge surface that people can live on.
Oh, kind of like a Dyson sphere, kind of.
It's like it's a slice of a Dyson sphere, basically. Yeah. And then basically in there was a society. Everyone was allowed to have one child, or you had to have a lottery to be able to have kids because it was an overpopulated universe. And it was a universe. It was like multiple locations or multiple planets. But there was this one character, he had a wire going directly into the pleasure sensor of his brain,
Oh yeah.
and he was addicted to just turning on the pleasure sensor of his brain
Yeah.
nonstop. Right.
Yeah.
And so every time I think about, our cell phones and the dopamine hits that people get off them, it's like, to me, it's the exact same thing. It's like you've wired your pleasure sensor of your brain and you're just turning it on and off. And then, of course, what ends up happening is you need more and more time doing that to get the impact because your body gets used to high levels of dopamine.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's like one person, I have no idea if they know what they're talking about or not, but they commented on our YouTube channel. We were talking about, I think I was talking about sugar addiction, something like that. And there was some guy that said, oh, it used to be like the sweetest thing you could get was like a carrot. And
fruit, yeah, right. And even then, the fruit was not engineered the way it is today.
Yeah, but we blew that by way a long time ago. It's like now they can concentrate that, so it's just sort of,
You ever had those cotton candy flavored grapes?
No.
They're grapes that actually have a cotton candy flavor to them. Or there's the grapple, the apples that taste like grapes.
Wow.
I mean, that's how much that we play around with the flavor of food. So
and just tends to just always got to take the experience up higher, more.
I would say probably in the past the natural thing that we would have gotten that would have been sweet would have been honey.
Yeah, I think so. Honey's pretty darn sweet.
Because I think agave and maple syrup and things like that, they're all processed. I mean, yeah, they're cooked down basically.
Yeah.
But that is a form of processing. If you think about the most natural thing that we could get that was sweet would probably have been honey, I would think.
I would think, but that's been processed too, right? It's just we're not doing the processing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, we could call that processing as well, right? I guess the thinking I had was if you wanted to get back to as close to nature as you could, I guess.
Yeah.
Then going to honey, because honey has other things in it that are beneficial to
Oh yeah,
to you
yeah.
as
Apparently,
well, so.
honey's super good, depending on who you talk to. It could go from like a miracle cure. It's interesting because I know one time, I'm changing topic to something else sweet, but like sugar cane, which is interesting. It's like, you chew on that and it's not that sweet until you kind of process it down because it's very fibrous and you got to chew a lot.
But that means you're working for your sugar, which means it's not as bad for you in many ways, right?
You're working for
and you're right.
Yeah.
The intensity of sugar, the hit of sugar is not there, so the caloric intake probably isn't there either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's kind of fascinating. Okay, anything else on sugar addictions? Dopamine we need to talk about because I got a real problem I have to solve.
Sugar in and of itself, no. I mean, I think it's maybe the biggest curse we've got in modern society.
Yeah,
much worse than alcohol and tobacco.
I would think so. Yeah, I think
just
so.
The sheer impact on the world at large, in our society in particular, right? The level of obesity and overweight we have. That mixed, and then all of it mixed with things like our lifestyle, so we don't go out and move as much. All those things coming together. So.
Yeah, because we don't have to, because we've made things so easy for ourselves that we're getting weaker and weaker.
And the funny thing is, as you get older, you gain weight, right? And so. As I'm working with all these kids in their 20s, they're all fit, and then I work with the people in the 30s and the 40s, and I say I can see how body type it changes over time. So
yeah, that's because you're just more sedentary. It doesn't have to be that way,
No, and there are people obviously who there's a percentage of the population that will always find a way to stay fit. I think that's I wish I had more of that mentality in my head, but.
Yeah, there's no easy way around. You got to work for it. There's unfortunately, and you have to work for it hard for a long period of time consistently to really start seeing results.
And I think that's, I think a lot of that is learned, right? I grew up not really being athletic. I played soccer. That was about it. And honestly, I never enjoyed the exertion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just your DNA is hooked up in a different kind of way. Yeah, it's interesting.
So we got to go hack the DNA.
Do you? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Well, you definitely can. I don't know that you can hack DNA, but what you can do is you can use food to turn on and off tendencies.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking here is, right now we've got Ozempic and the other GLP-1 drugs that are out there, and this is, since we can't get people to eat healthy and we can't get them to exercise, what do? we manipulate their bodies so they're not hungry.
Yeah, we put chemicals in
right?
Right.
And so we're like, we know that actually eating healthy and exercising would be the better option, but we can't get you to do that, so we're just going to make it so you don't eat. I find it interesting. Yes, it could be very beneficial to the United States to lower the weight of the average weight of the country, to get more people off of diabetic medication, all that kind of stuff. It has all that benefit, but at the end of the day, it's not the optimal solution for getting people to be healthy, right? It is just it's fixing some of the symptoms without actually fixing the problem.
Yeah, and the core problem is just the food system is just crappy food,
Well, crap food and crap exercise, or not exercising, right? Those two things, and part of that is because society, just like the food we eat has gotten tastier, doesn't mean healthier, tastier. Yeah. The entertainment we have has gotten more fulfilling without having to move.
More intense, without having to move. More targeted. I mean, you got experts, man, that they know how to story tell. That they just know exactly the stories to hack our human brains. Actually,
I mean, what if your TV? Let's say you're watching TV. What if your Netflix account required you to do sit-ups?
Yeah, right.
To watch it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a stupid idea, but it's also kind of, that'd be an interesting hack too, right? If when I'm sitting there on my recliner, instead of sitting back in my recliner, I'm sitting there forced to do leg lifts while I'm watching TV.
Or it shuts off, right?
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to do it.
It's like, yeah, exactly. You gotta put more energy in, or the thing's gonna shut off in like 3 minutes, right? So you spin your bicycle.
And
faster,
so when you go to buy your TV, you have a license on how fit you are. If you're ultra fit, you can buy any TV you want. If you're not fit at all, then you're forced to buy the exercise TV.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, Chris, that wouldn't go over very well.
No, it wouldn't go over very well.
People would be like, "Oh my gosh, I need to have free will. I need to do what I want to do."
Oh, you should see. So I was on an online conversation last week, and this one guy was going on and on about how stupid people are, right? Because they just make stupid decisions, right? Yeah. So he's going down the pathway like, people are all dumb. They make super stupid decisions. They could make their life better. They could pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That whole thing, right?
Almost always.
And I got all this point. It goes. The only way you're gonna. So I said, okay. So if my goal is to make people more logical, more critical, to think more critically, to be more aware of how they're making bad decisions, what should I do? And he goes, we can't do anything about it. You just have to take the kids away from their parents and teach them somewhere else. And I'm thinking of Canada tried this with their indigenous population. They took all their First Nations people and shoved them into Catholic schools that basically abused the hell out of them, and a lot of them died. So I mean, it's like it doesn't work that way. Not only so I was talking to him saying, I understand where you're coming from on this viewpoint. Yeah. But that's just not a viable option. You know that Americans would not put up with having their kids taken away from them. Yeah, right. Not that they should either.
Not for a second.
The question I have for you is, what action could we reasonably take at this moment to make change? And then he shut down at that point. And it was like, yeah, if there were an easy answer to this, we would have done it.
Yeah. You got
that. He did make a point that I thought was really good. He, there are some people who want people to be dumb, who want the populace to be dumb, because it's much easier to manipulate them.
Yeah, good to control. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would think if you want to do it in mass, I would do exactly what they're doing right now. You have TV stations, you have easy entertainment, you have games, right? So you can be programming people. Social media programs people. I mean, it's so interesting. I occasionally I'll go on social media and look at some of the shit my family posts. And they're not. It's not their idea. It's just they were fed that talking point, because it's crazy. You can almost see the talking point word for word across things. Yeah. No original thought whatsoever.
I generally don't like reposts or people regurgitating something unless they've put a different spin on it. Yeah, if I know that you've taken an idea and worked on it, then that's different. But
yeah.
So, but one theory says, so when we talk about the ideas to control, then I'm like, okay, so if I look at left versus right and how they control, I'm like, it feels like the left controls by saying we're educated elites and we know better than you. Just listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
And the right basically says you don't need to be educated and all, and so we dumb you down, and then we can control you because we're telling you the better story.
Yeah.
And so it's like both sides, all they want to do is control people.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. It's just who it's sort of like the thought of like, everybody's got to serve a master. You just which master are you going to serve?
And the people who are in the middle don't serve either side, so then they're the enemy.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, but you got to serve something somewhere, somehow. You got to wake up and say, okay, I'm going to go this direction today.
I did go down a rabbit hole looking at what percentage of average Americans, believe in God, versus what percentage of scientists believe in God.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting. And it turns out physicists believe in God at a higher rate than biologists do.
Oh, that is interesting. Why is that?
I think evolution is a very strong one for people to get around, right? And the physics people don't have to worry about that because they're to them it's like the universe has an operating system.
Yeah.
And they can easily say God made it as opposed to it just occurred naturally. That's a pretty easy thing to say. Right? Whereas evolution has a story that goes directly against it.
Yeah, to me that is the more like, if I just had to guess, I would definitely pick the God thing actually, because like for instance, so I was doing some research. I was talking to Gemini Pro the other day, and it's kind of cool. And I was just trying to figure out, and so who knows if these numbers are right, but I wanted to figure out like how much energy comes out of the sun in 1 second, and how long would that power the planet? And so it basically said that based on our current energy consumptions, if we could somehow capture all the energy produced by the sun in 1 second, that would power us for about 10,000 years, the planet. That's kind of amazing, actually. And then I asked it, what would it take to make a sun? Like, how much power, energy would it take to literally build a sun? And it's like, it just gave up. It's like incomprehensible. It's like, that can't be computed at this point. And so if you let's assume that's true, right? Just for one sun.
Why would it take, okay, explain the logic of that question. There seems to be some assumptions in that question. I want to pick it apart.
The assumptions, and I don't know if there's any assumptions. I wanted to know, like, if you had to make a sun, how much energy would that take?
Why would that take it? I'm going to ask this. It doesn't come out the way I want it to, but it's as close as I can come. Why does that take energy?
I don't know. It would seem like it would. If you're just, because all of physics says there's no free lunch. So if you put energy into a system, I mean, you can't get more energy out of something than you put into it. So I'm based on that logic.
So I'm thinking directionally. I get what you're saying, but I think the way I'm thinking of that is what is the theory about how the sun is formed?
I think what happens is there's a lot of matter, mostly hydrogen, that comes together with gravity. It like pulls down, it compresses. At some point, just because of pure friction, the atoms rubbing together.
The pressure gets big, which causes more friction. Friction causes heat. He gets to a point where that it turns over into fusion.
Yeah, then it turns into fusion. Yeah, stars they do fusion, actually.
So then you're asking how much heat energy is required to create a sun, but then you would also need to know how much material you've got.
Yeah, how much material, and then it's weird, and this is something I rarely don't understand at all. Oh yeah, somebody called me an idiot that said I didn't know what they were talking about, or I didn't know what I was talking about with the gravity waves. I'm like, yeah, of course, yeah, duh. Sure. Wasn't that obvious? I mean, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I would say even the scientists who are probably the experts in gravity probably feel at times they don't know what they're talking about too. So the more you know, you don't know. So anyway,
yeah,
but sure.
But it's fascinating though, because when you start to get into this kind of stuff, like how stars are made, black holes are made. It's like now Einstein says that energy and mass can be just translated back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, well, which one is it? Is it mass turning into energy, or did it take energy to create mass? It's like, well, who knows how the whole thing started, right? That's kind of the question. Nobody really knows. And so the prevailing theory right now is the Big Bang. Like somehow there is a singularity, somebody with incomprehensible amounts of energy or mass in a tiny point just exploded and created the whole universe. Okay, I don't know how you wrap your head around that. That's kind of crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, the concept of there's a point that has everything, and now it blows up, and now it is everything. I don't get that. So
yeah, I don't either. Well, because we're not smart enough to get it or whatever. But anyways,
or it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't understand. What the Big Bang comes from the idea that the universe is expanding, so therefore at one point it was smaller, and then at some point we get to a point where it's so small that it's just.
It's called like a singularity. It's like there's this,
but just because everything's moving away from us, does that mean that we started from one little point and then there was a big explosion? I mean, is there evidence of that? I don't know.
Well, there's some evidence, but sometimes they're questioning the Big
Is it just the logical extrapolation saying, well, if we go all the way back and everything comes back to a single point, like, well, yeah, in theory, everything comes back to a single point. I get it. I don't know if that's right.
Well, but then the thing that messes that theory up is you'd expect things to start to slow down as they expand. And then now they're starting to see, well, actually things are accelerating as they start expanding.
So
it's like, yeah. So then some scientists are like, well, then maybe the Big Bang, now we kind of start to question it or whatever. How do we solve that? And then it's like, oh, you got this dark matter. And then it's like, then they start plugging other things in. It's like, how the heck are we going to solve this problem?
Well, but back to your point about matter is energy or whatever. I'm like, why does it matter?
Yeah, well, I think it matters. I think it matters because the whole world is formed around that. So I think it matters. Matter matters, Chris. And
I guess the idea would be if we have a conservation of energy to the point where, we don't. Does anything ever get destroyed? We know that atoms can actually be destroyed through nuclear explosions or fission or fusion, right? I mean, because that's actually is matter being burned up, right?
yeah, it's not really burnt up. It's just being transformed from matter into energy.
Okay, so then if the idea is that matter is energy and energy is matter, then we've got a constant amount of energy in the universe.
I guess so. Yeah, that's what Einstein says. That's the whole
There's just this
thing.
There's 100. The battery's 100%. It's just where you're putting the energy.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, it's
20% of it's in matter, 10% of it's in this, that, whatever.
Well, you need to come up with a different word for it because like E energy equals mass times the coefficient of light squared, right? And it just can go back and forth. It can be transferred. So I think you need then another name for this thing.
E equals mc squared. You're applying it to what? To the universe?
Yeah, exactly. That's how stars work. That's how nuclear bombs work. It's like
I'm not sure that's the case.
Okay. Because what you're doing is you're taking a certain amount of mass, right, and you're transferring it into energy.
So why is it the coefficient of light?
I don't know. It seems like the speed of light has
feels like something I should have studied. I'll have to go back and look at it. And
seems like it has some underlying thing in you, like nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, right? Gravity waves travel at the speed of light. It seems like that's apparently some kind of constant. But
isn't that why he was for a while was obsessed with light as being like the answer? Because if it's a constant in all these different calculations, then it would imply it's almost like a master constant.
I think, yeah, probably. I mean, there's several master constants in the universe. Otherwise, things wouldn't form. There's like, gravity has to be just the right thing. It's like there's the strong force, the weak force on an atomic level, how it holds the electrons in orbit around the neutron, the center of the atom. I mean, there's all these things, even just slightly changed, like things would just basically fall apart.
Okay, going back to your how much energy would it take to make a sun? Couldn't you calculate that? If you've got a calculation of how much energy the sun puts out in a second,
Yeah.
couldn't you take E equals MC squared and reverse engineer that?
Probably. I don't know. I was just
If C's a
doing.
constant, right? And
I
the only
was
variable is
talking.
the M.
I was talking to what's its name, Gemini 3 Pro, and it's like it just no, we don't know. We can't think that. Apparently, it like blew up its like calculator or something internal. It's like
Well,
I don't know.
So when I was going down this rabbit hole of asking about belief in God, right? So
Yeah.
America actually has a higher percentage of belief in God than a lot of countries, European countries
Yeah.
do. Although a lot of European countries still have a lot of laws and rules around how they live their life that are actually associated with religion. But when I asked, it said it said like Americans are like 80% believe in God. So some number like roughly about 80%. Physicists, I want to say it said something like 40%, and then biologists were like 20%, or maybe it was maybe 60-40, but it was a considerably different lower amount.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I was following down this idea that I had that I've talked with you about, excuse me, that deism in the founding fathers is what kind of led to the birth of science, modern day science.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was already happening around the world. We had Newton and all these people, but they kind of laid the groundwork for it, right? Newton still believed in God. Darwin started believing in God. I think he still ended up saying he believed in God. Although, when you think about a lot of these scientists who kind of laid the foundation, they either did believe in God or societally said they believed in God.
Yeah, right.
Because that was the norm. But what ended up happening is you ended up with the deists coming up with this idea that the world can exist the way it does and not have every single thing that happens in the universe have the hand of God on it.
Yeah,
right.
Potentially.
So the apple falling from the tree doesn't mean that God sat there and said, "Hey, that apple's going to fall from the tree." It happened because he made a universe in which the apple fell from the tree, and he set the operating system such that gravity made it happen. Right?
Yeah, right.
So there's different ways to view God involved in the world.
Yeah.
So, but following that path, I was trying to figure out, what. When it comes to science, did science in fact start to kill off the belief in God? And that's where I was kind of going with that idea. And it really looks like that is the way it is. Now, does that mean that people who don't necessarily believe in God become scientists? Or does science give explanations in a way that people feel they don't need to believe in God?
Well, yeah, I don't know. So I'm starting a new channel on January 1. It's called Build with Big Scott. And so the premise of my channel is I'm going to like build things and try to understand physics and material science. And I'm always going to point it back to God, because my premise of the whole thing that I'm doing is the fact that if I'm given two choices, right, this universe just somehow poofed into existence just randomly, as ordered as it is, versus it was created by some other force, being, divine intervention. Somebody designed it. I got to go with the designer, right? I mean, I just that's where I got to go. I can't get around that in my head.
I don't know why you can't get around that.
I can't. It's like
if you understand the concept of infinity and believe in the idea that infinity is an actual term, an idea, that then I don't know why you can't believe in infinite worlds, infinite universes, and infinite existences.
Well, yeah, but no matter where you trace back to, it's like you got to come to an origin, right?
No matter where you trace back to, you've got to come to.
Yeah, you got to go to. If you keep following,
well,
back,
that is an assumption.
You got to go to a starting point, right?
Do I agree? Why? It is the way it is.
Yeah, but how did it get here?
Who cares? Why does that matter?
Well, it matters to me.
Maybe it was just here.
To me, that's my most fundamental question.
So what you're saying is you have to have a why, and since you can't come up with a why that explains it all, you have to assume it's by design.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, no.
Yeah, no, and I get that actually.
The reality happens. The world happens to around you. Why can't the universe just happen?
Because when you start to dig into physics, everything is cause and effect until you get to the edges.
Well,
and then you're
in our universe, in our time frame, in our whatever, in our particular reality, yeah, this is the way it works.
Yeah, right.
In a different reality, it may not work the same way. The constant of gravity, the constant of speed of light might be a different speed. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. But there has to, in my mind, there just has to be some sort of starting point.
See, and I think that is that's an assumption that I don't necessarily agree with.
Oh yeah, no, I know it's an assumption. Yeah, I can't prove it.
Right.
I'm deriving it from
and I wonder
else.
when we have an assumption that we feel the need to have.
Yeah.
If that's coming from biology or if that's coming from somewhere else.
I don't know.
Right. And so this is the thing is I don't need an explanation for origin.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to try to understand it. It's great to want to have one. It's great to have one that you think is the most likely probability.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't have to have that. Because the world is the way it is today, regardless of how it came to be. And you've got to live in the world as it is today, no matter how it came to be.
Yeah, no, of course, actually. Yeah.
Right? And that's what people forget is reality is going to hit you in the face when you try to ignore it. So just accept that the reality is the way it is, and it doesn't really matter if it's because it's a roll the dice or if it's because God made it that way.
See, that to me it matters. That's the most important question in my mind.
To me, it's the least important question there is.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. That's why I'm starting to channel to drive down that path.
So I would ask you to consider, do some, you're very self-aware overall. Look into why you think you need to have an origin.
Because that's how my DNA works. That's just how I was built. It's like I'm a cat, I'm a dog, dogs will chase squirrels around. It's just built in.
Yeah, I don't. To me, that just feels like you haven't done enough examination to really understand it. If that's your answer, it seems like too flippant an answer.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
So you might end up in the same spot. I just don't think that you've asked the uncomfortable questions that would challenge that.
That's interesting. So we see things just fundamentally different.
Well, yeah, and the thought I have here is I think that when obviously you talked about in years past you weren't as concerned or about belief in God because you were more focused on I guess the science of things or the engineering or the like. Yeah. I like the idea that there's a design to the universe, but I don't have to have one.
Yeah, I do. And most people do.
I don't know if I agree with that either. Why do you think most people do?
Because it's built into their DNA.
Where are you getting the idea that most people do?
So if you go through history, right?
Sure.
Back thousands of years, actually, everybody's like, how did this thing get here? And it's always some sort of deity, always some sort of other powerful being or force that have built this thing. And the underlying question, you go back through all the great thinkers is, and then how do I relate to this? How do I fit into the puzzle? Like, why am I here? What's my purpose?
It's not. I think you're over romanticizing this idea. I think what happens is for most of history, life has been rough for everyone.
Yeah.
It's just tough. And people when they get to a point where they want to understand why they have to suffer the life they have, they want an explanation. And that is what religion has done for many people, is gives them gives them a reason to explain why they're suffering the way they are in the world.
Oh,
That's
that's
what I
one
think
part of
it
it.
comes down to.
Yeah, that's one
But
part of it.
I look at other. I see when you say most people need this. I'm looking at Asian cultures and where they're at today and how they view religion,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of them do have. I mean, most old cultures have a religious origin story.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. I don't necessarily think they need it if you look at today and you see how societies exist today. I don't necessarily think that they need that. I think we're at a point where people can understand the world is the way it is, and it's up to you to find a way to make that better or to make that better for others. See, I think you are still looking at it through a Judeo-Christian white American lens, or maybe not
Yeah.
white American lens, but I think therefore you say, well, everyone's this way, and I'm like, I don't think everyone's this way. There's 80% of the world that I don't think you're including in your calculation.
Well, I didn't say everybody. You said
You said-
everybody.
You said everyone.
I said most people are 80%.
Okay,
of
you said
people.
okay. Most people. 20% of the world's not most people.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is you've got assumptions that you're using in your thinking, and I just want to call them out. That's all.
Yeah, of course. Well, there's always assumptions. I never can get around assumptions because I'm never going to find the ultimate truth, right? Because I'm not smart enough.
But you keep going. You said several times that, this religion is right because most people believe in it. You've heard you say that in past discussions. And
Well,
then
if I
here
said
you
that,
said most
I
people
didn't-
need this.
I didn't say because most people believe in it. I don't believe I would have said that. I would have said I think it's right based on a whole bunch of reasons, not because most people believe in it.
You started with that and you backed off on that when we talked about it last time. But what I hear when you normally talk about these types of things is you start with the most, thinking most Americans, I think, is where you're at.
No
Right?
doubt. Yeah.
And then I'm like, we're only 350 million people out of 7 billion, 8 billion. Okay, so this is the first thought I have every time you say that is like, again, you're looking at it through the American lens. You're not looking at it through, and if it turns out that America's viewpoint of religion is the only, America's primary viewpoint of religion is the only right one there is, that means that you've got 90% of the population of the world is wrong.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, probably I'd say a lot more than that's wrong, actually.
Now, I tend to believe the masses are right in general.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, I haven't experienced that. I think the masses can be led around so easily by Fox News and
sure, you can
MSNBC,
lead them
and it
around.
seems-
You can lead them around. I'm not talking about that. But when you talk about the intelligence of masses of people, I think you come to an average, and I think that the average is not where you think it is.
Yeah, well, here's what I want to do, Chris, actually. I think my ultimate goal is I want to derive God through physics.
Good luck. If you can do that, you will have done something that no one's been able to do.
That's my
You're
That's
always going to
my-
have the belief hurdle at some point in the calculation, right?
Well, yeah, but you always have to have faith. Faith always comes in. And I think it's going to come in more and more as I'm starting to study more and more. Faith is a super critical
when you say
element.
derive, then you're not talking about truly logicking all the way through it then. Because at some point you're going to have faith in something that you cannot prove in a scientific way.
Yeah, all scientists do that. I mean, that's how they make these leaps. They're like, based on all this stuff that we've learned, I have a hunch that this thing over here may be a deeper level of understanding or the cause of it. So now let's go try to figure out how can we run experiments to see if that's true or not.
That you have a theory until you and you do your best to disprove the theory, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right.
And then but whether
and you can have a
God or not-
misunderstanding of something, you can have a misreading of some aspect of the universe that falls into your calculations that you later find out, oh, we didn't see this right, or we didn't.
Oh, that
understand
happens
this
all the
correctly.
time. That's
Right?
like
So I get that, but you say you want to derive God, and what I'm hearing when you say that is you want to prove the existence of God,
yeah.
right? And so that's what I'm saying is, if faith is required at any point in that logical flow, I think you can't successfully prove God. Because the problem you've got is that there's a point where you have to believe in something without being able to prove it. There's some point in that flow, somewhere in that flow.
Yeah, and I may not need. I don't know that I'll ever be able to 100% prove it, but what it'll just be a certain amount of evidence just stacking up that kind of just starts pointing in that direction, and the argument starts to get stronger and stronger.
Yeah,
until you cross some
people have done
threshold.
this for people have done this for millennia, and
Yeah.
you can stack up any number of facts you want
Yeah.
and call it evidence, and you may be able to improve specific things, but at the end of the day, the other side can do the same thing, right? I can always find evidence to prove something.
That's why you need faith to finish it off, right?
And so now we're back to faith. See, so
Always.
then again, yeah. So it's a worthy goal. I don't think you're ever going to be able to do it.
I may not do it, but maybe I can inch just a little bit closer, actually. But it's like, philosophy and physics, they go together.
Philosophy and all science goes together.
Yeah. But physics is the root of every other science. It's the core. You can't get any deeper than physics. Everything builds off of physics.
Generally, I agree with that. Until we start getting into weird things like society and some other things.
I would like you to build one argument that I would think it's true. I don't think you could. Because if you could, now that could breaks my own argument. So I would like you to break it if possible.
Something where physics is not the root of everything?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I tend to believe physics is the root of everything, but let me give you a question and have you tie it back to physics. Let's talk about how mobs interact, how a mob works.
Okay.
Right? So I'm thinking like mob mentality. Like you remember when with the tulip thing in Holland, where tulips became the money because they became so rare, and then they got overvalued, and then their whole economy crashed.
Yeah.
Can you take that back to physics?
Yeah, of course. That's how people's brains work, right? You understand psychology. I mean, they have tons of books on this. This is the essence of marketing. Like one really good book is called Predictably Irrational, right? People act irrational, but it's in a very predictable way. And you got to define the term irrational, meaning it's probably not in their best interest, right? But maybe it is. Maybe we just define their interest incorrectly.
So I need you to go back to physics, though. I'm not seeing the physics of it yet.
Yeah, well, that you have to go back to biology. You have to go back to the structure of how the brain is structured. You have to go back to chemistry, right? Biology builds on top of chemistry. Chemistry
what about cultural differences?
Yeah, that's differently, but that's way up the stack. That's more software. I mean, I got to get to the hardware first, and then we can talk about software. That would be cultural. Cultural would be the software, the programming, the way that your neural network has been
again,
structured.
physics. The question was, how do you tie this back to physics?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But first of all, we talk about First of all, physics talks about hardware. And as you move up the stack, then you start abstracting, and then you start talking about software. And so software is soft. It's not a physically hard program.
So how is software physics?
It's not physics. It's built on physics.
But if one culture would act one way in a situation and another culture would act a different way in a situation, then they both have the same hardware.
Yeah.
How come you're getting different results?
Because the software is different. Just like you program a computer different.
So what I'm getting at is, what is the physics of that?
Oh, that I don't know, actually.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say is, when there's physics, it means I should be able to work backward. I go through culture. I go through politics. I go through whatever that it is. I go through the history of that group of people. I work out, the geography they live in,
Yeah, right.
I would take into account all these aspects, and then I'd work backward and I say, okay, this is how people think, and this is the emotions they feel, and this is, why did so many people lose a fortune when this happened, or when during the subprime crisis, or any of these things.
Yeah,
And there's a psychology of not wanting to be left behind, feeling like you're not getting your due. I mean, you can come up with a whole bunch of things. Well, where does that come from? And then you can work back into the biochemistry of that, and then you can talk about how biochemistry, you can go back to science on a lot of that. I get that.
yeah, right.
Right. And so in general, I believe if you have a deep enough understanding of the science of every piece along the way, then you're getting back to basics, and basics are physics, right? The bottom of the stack is physics.
Yeah,
right.
The,
In the old was it OSI model of networking?
Yeah.
The physical media that you're on is the physical layer,
the physical
physics,
hardware.
right?
Yeah, right.
And so I get you're working up that way, but I guess the ability to be able to state that in something like this, and turn it into useful, I think, points when you're talking about trying to prove God, you're going to need to be able to go back and take social activities and tie it back to physics. You're going to have to be able to take good and bad decisions and tie it back to physics. You're going to have to be able to take events like Hitler and take it back to physics.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, is if you're really saying that physics is the source of everything, you need to take some of these things that don't tie directly to science, but find a way to bring them back to science.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right.
I was going to go the other way, actually. I was going to keep digging down deeper into physics, because physics right now, as we know it, isn't the bottom layer. Because then you get into, randomness, and you get into quantum.
Isn't that just more physics? Just better physics?
It's just more physics.
It's more detailed physics.
It's digging down deeper to the actual core base of what actually is going on. And we may never be able to get there, because we may not be able to understand.
But Scott, what's the origin?
Yeah, exactly. What's the origin? I believe.
Scott, if we can never get there, then maybe it doesn't matter.
But we can get closer. That's all I got to do. Because that is serves for me a built-in desire. It's built into my DNA to understand.
No, I get that. No, I do like to understand, and I do think that to a great extent, if you knew every variable and every piece of information there was to be known, you could predict. You could actually not predict. You could know the outcome of a situation.
Maybe that is uncertain whether that's true or not.
Well, then, if you think that you're uncertain, that means you don't believe physics is in fact.
No, you're saying that.
Right, because physics would mean that that there are rules of the way things work. You can derive the rules, you can figure out the outcome because you know the rules.
No, because if you go into quantum stuff, they fundamentally believe that there's an inherent randomness that is unable to be predicted.
Mm-hmm.
At the deepest levels of physics. And the deeper you go down, the weirder crap gets. And
but what I'm saying is, you know the outcome. The outcome, it could have two variables. It could have three variables, right? Because the probability is such that when you calculate probability, it could be in this state, or this state, or whatever, right? But you can do that if you know physics.
You can't know it right now. We don't know enough. So no, it may not be. We don't have the tools. It could be possible, Scott, to do it, but we don't know.
Don't think about what you know now.
Yeah.
On the possibility thing, if you understood all of physics, would you be able to then figure out what's going to happen?
That's unclear.
Why is that unclear?
Because scientists will argue on both sides. Are we living in a deterministic world?
No. I don't care why scientists believe. Why do you think it's unclear?
Why do I think it's unclear? Because I don't know.
So I'm hearing two things that seem contradictory to me. Okay.
Yeah.
One is everything goes back to physics.
Yes.
Right. And then, but even if I know all of physics, I can't understand things.
Maybe that's
right?
unclear.
And
we don't
so
know.
I hear that as a contradiction.
We don't know, right? Because the question is definitely what we call physics right now. We do not understand everything. In fact, I think we understand just a small piece.
And I'm not
of it.
claiming we do understand everything.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you're claiming that everything is physics, and you know, and we would understand if we understand physics, we get closer to God. We can understand things better. Blah 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 blah. I'm saying if we understood it all, couldn't we then just know what the world is?
Don't know.
And so to me, that's a logical next step. If
I
understand
the
if
logic.
I understand every piece that makes something, then I understand that something and can
that's an
talk about it.
assumption that could get you in trouble, actually. Because
it's physics as we know it. It's if you can go one direction, you can go the other direction, right? If mass and energy can go either direction, if hot and cold can go either direction, if I can turn one form of energy into another form of energy, then to me, if I can go down the stack to understand something, I can go up the stack to figure out something, to predict something.
Not sure.
See, to me, I'm seeing an inconsistency in what you're saying. I'm trying to be consistent in my idea that, yes, I agree, physics is the source, is the core of everything. And at some level, if you could understand it all, you could know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, that part I don't know.
Which is the argument against free will, by the way. So, and one of those English philosophers I like to listen to, he talks about this a lot, saying that there is no free will.
Yeah, I understand.
We just don't understand the physics of anything well enough to be able to predict everything the way it should be, or to be able to say what it's going to be.
But
in general, he's just saying because you go back to physics on everything, there is no free will.
Yeah, but he can't prove that, though. Actually, right? That's just a guess. And scientists will think, is there something that's true?
It is someone who's taking the logical idea that if everything it goes down to physics, and if you can understand every piece of every factor that goes into every situation, then you know exactly what the situation is going to be.
Don't know. Yeah, I understand that that's the easy way out, but we don't understand if there's something that's truly random or not. Because there's two parts, right? Like one thing most people call random stuff is that
so if it's random, there's no free will. And if it's preordained because of the rules of physics, there's no free will. So there is no free will in either randomness or in trusting that physics is the core of everything.
No.
In both of those situations, there is no free will.
No. Randomness means there could be free will in that.
No. Randomness means randomness, which means there is no will involved.
Depends on how you define randomness. See, that's not true, though. Actually,
wait. Depends on how you define randomness. Go ahead and define randomness.
Yeah. So there's two things. One thing that's truly random, right? And I think what most people think in terms of randomness is that we're unable to predict it. And that probably means randomness in all cases, right? But I wonder if there's truly something that's random that, regardless of how much you understand, it's impossible to predict. Because that could be a fundamental element of physics, of understanding.
So if something is truly random to the point where you cannot predict it,
yes,
then there's no free will because you cannot put your will on top of that. It's going to be random no matter what.
Well, that's assuming that comes from randomness.
So this is the argument that I've heard. Though. This is the argument I've heard against the idea that there is any free will. Is that either it's all something that we can break down into science, and then once we know all the pieces, we can figure it out.
Yeah. Or
it's truly random, which means no matter what we want to believe, we have no control. Well, so, in which case, either argument is the idea that there is no free will.
See, but you're boxing. You see, you're boxing yourself into a corner. That's a really bad place to be.
Okay, I might be boxing myself, but where are you seeing me boxing myself in?
Because you're not allowing for the possibility of free will.
No. I'm saying, is there free will? And if we go down from this philosophy that everything's physics, then that means I should be able to build up from physics to understand what's going to happen. Even with probability, I can figure out, here's the three options. Right? There isn't free will in that. Those are the only things that there are. It means one of those three options is preordained for you, and there's a probability that it's going to be one over another. That's not free will. You're not choosing which probability occurs. Right? So that situation, going back to science, says there's no free will.
See, when you say we're not choosing what probability, that's an assumption that I don't believe is true.
So you're saying that probability is something that you can choose. So I can choose one probability over another.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of science or philosophy that comes into the fact that just by the nature of our being, we can create things at will. By sheer.
Where is that coming from?
Yeah, that's been coming around for like a long time.
No, but where are you getting that we can create things at will? We create things based upon what our biochemistry makes us think, our culture and how it makes us think. These are all factors that we can bring it back into the science and say, these are the conditions in which you live. So the options of what you're gonna choose are on a bell curve, with most people choosing what's at the height of the bell curve and other people choosing things that are right. And if we say those are the options that you have given your culture, then basically there isn't free will. You had only those options.
But I'm not sure. But then there's consciousness, and then you define like what is consciousness and how does it work? And it might.
Scott, you're bringing. So how do I explain consciousness by physics?
Well, I don't know. We may not know enough physics to get there, and it may be outside it. There's a possibility that it's outside of physics.
Well, then that breaks your other thing, saying that everything goes back to physics. So, what I'm getting at is you're making a statement. Everything goes back to physics, which I actually do tend to believe.
Yeah.
But now you're carving out pieces of it when I start to question you on it.
Yeah. See, because I don't know the answer. Actually, I would think that most things in the world that we can manipulate and control always comes back to physics. But there's this X factor. There's this other thing that we don't understand. And is it part of physics? I mean, it could be. It could be that there's multiple sciences all operating together in something that's like super physics, that's underneath everything. See, we're assuming, and now it depends on how we define it. If we define physics as understanding everything, then yeah, I think that makes sense actually. But physics no doubt has its limitations. Current physics.
See, so you said physics and then you said current physics. So now you're getting into a semantic definition of what you mean by physics.
Yeah, of course, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So when you say everything is physics, that is not current physics. Yeah, current physics will always have a limitation because it's based upon us. We are the limitation.
Very likely. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm not sure. I don't know.
So, but this is why I'm questioning you on these things. So when you make a statement like that, I'm like, when you make a statement and then you make another statement and they don't fit together, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying actually. Like generally speaking, for the stuff that we can do on this planet, physics will define everything.
So one of the things I know a lot of people don't like us using the word physics. I've heard other people who complain about this when we're talking about like societies and how they act.
Yeah, right.
And I understand why people don't like the word physics, but at the end of the day, there are historically evident ways in which cultures have acted. There are aspects of human nature that even across culture seem to exist no matter what. And when you start to take all those in, and you can probably explain a lot of that by going into what we'll call the physics, in which case it might be the biology of the mind or the biochemistry of the mind. There's a variety of things we can talk about, or just how the world works, right? Gravity keeps us from being able to fly or something, all these types of things. So I understand people don't like that, but if I'm building a mental model where I'm trying to understand something, I don't care what it is, the better I can build a model that has rules, the easier I can contemplate different things.
Of course.
And then I need to be able to question those rules, but I also need to be able to state this is the rule I'm working with right now. Yeah. And so that's where when we say I'm trying to build a mental model of how the world works. I want to understand the physics of the world. And I'm not just talking about gravity and Einstein and these guys. What I'm talking about is how human nature works, how cultures grow, what is the historical cycle of economies, all those types of things, which are not defined by the current definition of physics, but we're expanding to mean how things work. To me, physics is how things work. And if I extrapolate that to the extent and I take it away from the human limitation, that would be the ultimate knowledge.
I think so, assuming that physics can answer every single question. And I would tend to believe that's true, but I don't want to say it with 100% certainty because I don't know. Because there's this other thing called consciousness. That's a whole different thing. And it could be that those are completely separate from physics.
I think consciousness can be explained by physics too.
It could be, yeah, but we don't even understand it well enough.
Because in my definition of physics, it really is understanding how things work. That's it. And that means that as my view of the world expands, to understand how it works, I need to expand that or change that or refine that or get more detailed in that. So, the idea that, when people discovered molecules and they discovered atoms and they discovered electrons and protons and they discovered quarks, right? Yeah. We're going deeper and deeper and deeper into these things. We discover things that we actually don't even know if they're true, right? Gravitons and and we discover things like photons, which kind of act one way and kind of act like another way. These are all things that we didn't know existed at one point, and we know more. And what we know is still filtered through our ability to understand. Yeah,
which is very limited, I think.
Yes. So what we understand we may be understanding what 100th of 1% of what we see.
Yeah. So that's the question is like, because there's all that, they have other sciences to do that. And are they all built off of physics? See, that's interesting.
I think chemistry is built off of physics.
Well, no doubt chemistry.
Computer science is built off of physics.
Biology, computer science,
civil engineering is based off of physics, definitely. I mean,
definitely.
I really think all sciences today, even psychology, sociology, it's a more tenuous thread. But I think I can tie it back to physics.
I think so, probably most things. But maybe I got to reframe that. Maybe everything is not built off physics. There could be like this whole other thing called consciousness, which could be a completely separate thing that we know very little about. And then we want to put it in physics, and maybe it just doesn't belong there.
So you said consciousness multiple times. What is it that gives consciousness value to you that you want to stress it this way?
I think that the human beings are made up of multiple parts. We're made up of the hardware, right? We're made up of the software part. I mean, maybe the software part is more consciousness. I don't know. These are questions I haven't dug down in any great depth at all. So I'm
going to say something. Tell me where I'm wrong on this. And this is me thinking about how you think about this.
Yeah.
You value consciousness because you value you as an individual you believe you as an individual have value, and you have value in this world, and that value derives from some higher purpose because the world itself isn't going to say, hey, you're valuable. So would you have to believe that there is in fact a higher power that says, hey, you're valuable. I made you this way. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And therefore your consciousness is you as an individual. And therefore it has to have its place in your theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, your consciousness is a mixture of biological chemicals, your cultural upbringing, your parents, the experiences you've had, all of that. And it's valuable in the sense that I value it, because of our relationship, and those people around you do. But in the grander scheme of the universe, it has no value.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'm okay with that. Therefore, when you talk about consciousness, I agree there is this thing called consciousness. I don't have to explain it by anything but physics, though.
Yeah, I gotcha. I hear that. Yeah, that could just be fundamentally different.
Right.
And I just wonder if that's not put in, right? I just wonder if that's not put in by God. It's interesting.
Well, and so let me use a physics kind of idea. So let's say biochemically, all humans are basically the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
We do have a lot of people who believe in religion and God, various religions over time, and we have some who don't.
Yeah.
I could say that with that biochemical mix that is the average human, there are 3 probabilities of how you're going to believe in the way the world works, the universe works. One is, I believe that there's a higher power that made everything. and one is I don't believe in that, and one is I don't care.
I mean, there could be others.
Right.
I mean, those are
sure there are others.
To start out, there's 3 buckets. That's a reasonable start.
What I'm saying is,
yeah,
I'm going back to probability here. This idea that this randomness factor or whatever you want to call it, and it just so happens that the biochemistry has a certain percentage of people that are one way versus another. You just like everything is probability has percentages, right? So what if the split of those who believe in God, don't believe in God, or doesn't think it's relevant, is in fact that probability distribution?
Well, very likely. I mean, it's funny because the Bible talks about that, like, certain people are chosen from God. And I wonder if that, like in the DNA, that wasn't like programmed differently in the DNA, which I think is a fascinating thing.
Which means that no matter what you do, it doesn't matter because your DNA is your DNA. So no matter how we live our life, our DNA has already told us those who are chosen and those who aren't. Is that what we're saying?
Well, not 100%. Yes, mostly. Maybe.
So just
80%.
live your life the way you want to live it. If you were chosen by God, He chose you ahead of time. He figured out the ones that He wants to keep and not keep, or whatever. I mean, okay,
but there's also this other part. This is where I think that both, like, predestination and free will runs parallel together at the same time. And I'm starting to think more and more that sounds like a paradox to start out, because everybody's like, oh, it has to be one or the other. And I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, I think they can run parallel.
So everything we've talked about recently seems to me to imply that you're basically arguing for predestination, no free will. Now I know you want to say there's free will, and you've said it several times.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the arguments you've made about God programmed me, gave me a purpose, but all these kinds of things, what we just talked about with DNA, all those types of things seem to imply to me that there is no free will. Okay, I'm not saying you're saying that, but those are the arguments you're making seem to be down that path.
Okay, no, that's fair. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I'm wondering then. And it is a tough thing, right? Because predestination would seem to argue that there is no free will, that the outcome is the same no matter what choice you make, which means there is no free will. Is it that we have that we can make whatever choice we want, and that the outcome is going to be decided already?
That's very black and white thinking, and it could be true, but my hunch is it's more complicated than that. Because they can run physics experiments, and it's like things don't behave the way they think they should behave.
But what you think is your limitation, right? Things behave the way they behave.
Things behave the way they behave.
Just because you can't figure it out doesn't mean that it isn't either predestined or there is will involved.
Yeah. Maybe there's a little bit of both thrown in there. Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
So to me, a physics experiment isn't going to tell me if free will exists or doesn't exist.
I wonder if you couldn't use physics to determine that.
So just like at some point in any argument, when you're arguing about God, someone says, because that's the way it is, because I believe in God.
Yeah.
I think in physics, the thing is, yeah, but we just don't know enough yet. That's the excuse of physics.
Yeah, we just don't know enough
Physics can answer
yet.
Everything, but we just don't know enough yet.
Yeah, and you have to be comfortable not knowing everything.
So whereas usually when the average person, I'm going to say the average person because I don't think you're average in this case, when the average person wants to believe in God, they're looking for so that I don't have to understand everything. There's a reason. And I think when you're going the physics route, it's like, I don't understand everything, but it's okay.
I don't like that, but that's why I have to derive God. That's my mission.
When human nature is as simple as it is, right? It's like we want the easy answer. So the easy answer is, well, I don't understand it, but there's a purpose because there's this thing called God out there that makes it all fit together. And then physics is like, well, I can't explain it, but there's just because we don't know it good enough yet. And to me, they're both answering the same question. There's a whole bunch of crap we don't know. Yeah. How do I get comfortable? How do I get comfortable about it? One, it's outside of me. The other, boom, I'll figure it out someday.
Yeah, and it always has some version of faith. It's always thrown into the mix, you know.
Yeah. So I think this is, I think, is that the core difference between religion and science? That one person explains everything away by, if I don't know it today, I will know it tomorrow, and the other person says, I don't need to know it because there's a reason.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to explore all these things. I don't know, Chris.
Right? Because then when you go down the science path of saying, the origin, where does the Big Bang, all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, you know what? To me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that there's things I don't know.
Yeah, it
I'll
matters
figure out
to
the things
me.
I'll figure out the things I can know, and
Yeah.
I will do my best to figure out more things. But I'll also do my best to make what I consider the best possible outcome from what I do know.
Yeah, no, and I'll do that too, but I have this burning, nagging thing to understand things at a deeper level.
At a deeper level?
Yeah, at a deeper level, understand more like why things work.
When you say you want to understand, how are you building that understanding?
Well, right now, I'm not smart enough to start deriving stuff yet.
Why
But
not?
I think
Wait, why not?
because there's still a lot of the fundamental stuff that everybody knows. It's like, I won't say everybody knows it, but it's commonly known in physics, and I don't understand even all of physics
Well,
yet.
but at the level of what you understand, you can derive things from what you understand. I'm not saying they're going to be right, but you've got knowledge. You can derive and theorize from that.
Well, yeah, but I want to derive things that are true, right? And
Oh,
so
this is probably where we argue a lot then, because one of the things I noticed is I'm willing to take what I know,
yeah.
take additional information I learn, and incorporate it into what I know, and now this is what I know. Now I'm open to the idea that as I learn new things, that's all going to change. But this is the opinion for right now, and then tomorrow that opinion might change, because you often will say, "Well, we can't be sure," and I'm like, "No, we can't be sure, but this is what I'm going off of right now."
Well, no, and that's called faith, right? I mean that part is faith. But here's what I
No,
want to do.
wait. Why is that faith?
Because you believe something is true based on some amount of evidence.
These are the things that I know today. What I know doesn't mean they're real, but this is what I know. And so I'm going to build a reality based upon that and work off of that. I'm not saying my reality is the correct reality. I think it's probably more correct than the average person's reality.
Could be.
I don't have proof of that. But what I do have is historical evidence that in general, my reality tends towards truth more often than other people's do. So
yeah,
I have a historical
be.
background that I'm more accurate than the average person when it comes to that. But you give me new pieces of information, I go, crap, I got to rearrange my whole reality. And I'm perfectly comfortable doing that.
And
it's
see,
not
that's
faith. It's what I know. And when I know something's wrong, when something changes, then I change.
Yeah, that's okay. And I'll do the same thing. But what I want to do is I'm going to test based upon physics and things I've already figured out. And I want to kind of sort of calibrate how well my deriving ability is. Like how good my guess is.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, but I don't want to base mine on what other people think. I want to base it on what the gold standards of physics says is right now. Because I don't know all of physics. I only know a tiny bit of it. So as I learn more and more physics, I'll be able to hopefully derive that, if I put these things together, and that means this part of physics should be true. Now I can go out and research and say, is that actually true? So I'm sort of taking the test and then comparing it against answers that are already known. If that makes any sense.
I hear the words you're saying. I'm not sure I understand why you value it that way.
Oh, because now I can calibrate my ability to guess or to make up new information.
Yeah, but at some point you've got to make up new information.
Yeah, but I'm doing it all the time. But it's not, it may be new information for me, but it's not new information for a lot of people.
I don't care about other people. I care about you. So when I get information comes in, I process that. I trickle that into my understanding of the world, and it percolates out and changes what needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Right? And then this is now my current understanding of how things work. And then when some other piece of information comes in, it comes in and I go, oh, well, okay, that's true. And then if it doesn't fit my world, I go, wait, that doesn't fit my world. Why doesn't that fit my world? And I got to go find out why that doesn't fit my world. And then I find out, oh, I screwed up this other thing in my world model. I've got to now rework the whole thing to be able to fit this new piece of information in. Or what usually happens is, oh, that's crappy information that came in just now. That what's coming in is actually biased or whatever. That's why it doesn't fit my world model.
Yeah, but I want to derive this information myself.
What information are you talking about?
So certain principles, like for instance, I'll give you a hard example. So I'm trying to make a 6-axis industrial robot arm right now.
Okay.
And so I could go buy a kit, but I'm trying to derive this thing myself. So I'm going to build it up myself.
Okay.
And it's incredibly frustrating because I have to understand a bunch of things. So what I'm going to start doing is I am definitely using other models and being inspired by other things, but I'm not looking at their actual design and copying. I'm trying to get the underlying principle, and then I'm going to go build this thing. And I'm going to see if it actually works or not. And I'm doing that because I believe that I can learn faster by doing that because I'll get stronger feedback loops. Because I'll have a deeper level of understanding. So then my second robot arm that I build, or my third robot arm that I build, I might be able to start building stuff that other people can't build, if that makes sense.
I understand that. In my explanation, what are you seeing as the fault in the way I'm processing information as it comes in?
I don't think there's any fault in it. I think it's fine, other than you're just not building anything. You're not actually building and testing and making something. That's the only fault I see.
No, because you were claiming that when you hear information, you don't want to get the information. You want to derive the information.
Well, no, but I need a certain amount of information, and then I want to derive.
Yeah. So this is what I'm getting at is I'm using base information.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I've got to have a certain amount of belief or trust that it's coming, it's accurate. Like you've got to believe, like if you're working off the laws of physics, that the way they're stated or wherever you're reading from is actually accurately depicting the law of physics that you're. But
I can test that though, right?
You can test it, yes.
Like if my robot arm actually moves
around, and I can test mine too. Now I don't know. I don't think you probably test every single piece of data that comes in because you'd probably have to go really far back to be able to verify.
Yeah, right. I don't test everything, but
yeah. So again, when stuff comes in, I look at it and see if it makes sense.
But how do you test it against? What do you test it against?
I will either go back to find out where the information came from and find out if the logic flow that derived that information makes sense. I will go back and look at how something's measured to see how they're measuring it. Like if someone gives you a stat, it's like, you know, you and I know how we can adjust stats to say anything. Yeah. So I'm going to go back. Well, what was this? How was this statistic derived? Where did you get this from? Oh, you got it from this biased source. Oh, it came from MSN or Fox. Okay, well then I've got an automatic filter that I've got to go through and verify the information you're giving me. Right?
Yeah, that's fine. Fine.
Right? If it comes from someone who I think does that, then I'm much more likely to take the outcome and say that's probably true.
Yeah,
Let me
I understand
work off
all
of
that.
that. Right?
Of course.
Let me work off of that for the time being.
Yeah.
And I'm going to factor that in. Now, usually most things that happen in the world already fit into my worldview somehow. It's like, well, that sounds like something that could happen. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, how would that impact it, right? So there's not a lot of change. It's just new information that comes in. But once in a while, you get a piece of information that doesn't fit your worldview.
Okay, I got all that. Okay, I want to move past. Of course, that's all like just common sense, right? But what I want to know is how do you test it to make sure that it's right? Like when I say that, and when I say test it, the way I'm going to test it is I'm going to actually try to build the robot arm, and does it actually work and pick up a certain amount of weight with a certain tolerance actually?
So mine is usually I go out and redo the research that got them to that point.
Okay, but you're not going to physically build something to actually test it.
No, I'm gonna do research and figure out how it was derived.
Okay, and that's okay, but that's not as good as what I'm doing. Because at this point, now I can build something in the physical world, and the physical world will tell me if it works or not.
Yeah, I get that.
Of course, that's like a huge difference. Like if you're trying to build an airplane, we could build
I'm not trying to build an airplane.
Yeah, but I'm just using an example, right? You're trying to
Yeah.
build some sort of outcome.
You've decided to build something physical, and so now and so everything you're working is to be able to build that as best as possible.
Yeah,
I'm not building something physical.
yeah, but then what value is it?
Again, it's the fact that I get to understand the world better.
Maybe, but you don't know for sure because you haven't tested it. Like in your mind, it may work, but how do you know it actually works?
Because other information comes in that either fits the model or doesn't. You refine it based upon the pieces that fit together. If the pieces don't fit together, then it's not a good working model.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that, Chris, is you're always one step behind.
No, actually, I'm not.
You're never actually creating the new information. You're never actually deriving something that nobody else knows.
I think I'm doing that quite often. What do you mean?
Well, but how are you testing it against? How do you know that it's right?
Because I'm creating it from my mind. I don't, to me, I'm maybe this is the artistic aspect of it. That to me, what I'll take and take different ideas and put them together. Am I the first person to have that idea? Most of the time, not. But the thought here being, then I'll go down that path and think about this or that philosophical thing.
Yeah. But when are you going to actually build something to impact the world?
Why do I have to?
Well, you don't, but I have to.
What did Newton build?
Well, I have to do that.
What did Newton build?
Well, he built a series of equations that precisely predict how the real world moves.
Yeah, he did test those.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah, he sees that. Hey, these are right.
So when I philosophize on something and come up with an idea or a theory, then I will go out and test that theory. But the theory doesn't necessarily have to be a physical thing like you're talking about. It could be me going out and interviewing people and talking to them to get the information that I need to see if the theory that I have is accurate or not. Why does the theory have to be a physical thing? That's what I'm getting at with you.
Because we live in a physical world.
Yes, and yet intellectual property and the ideas and thoughts actually are very powerful and have been around for a long time.
Yeah, but those IP are used to build something. See, that's just how I'm made. I think we're arguing things. We're just different creatures, right?
Yeah. See, so you're saying if I'm not building something physically, I'm not adding value at all. And I think physical things are secondary to idea things.
I think you could be adding value, but you could be adding way more, like magnitudes order more value, is what I'm saying. Not just a little bit, like we're talking 20, 30, 100 times more value.
I think rarely does the physical device equate to what an individual who has an idea and can present it well can accomplish. And what I'm going to say here is there are plenty of devices that have changed the world.
Yeah.
But I think that when it comes to a person, they can have a much broader impact. They don't need to invent something to do it.
Well, they have to create something. There has to be some.
They don't have to invent a physical object to do it.
To give me an example of how they have impact then without doing
Martin Luther King.
What's that?
Martin Luther King.
Yeah, but he delivered content. There's videos. He gave a speech.
Yeah, but you keep talking about physical things, and that's why I'm talking about physical.
That
things.
is a physical thing.
Content? No, the speeches is what he gave.
No,
the ideas, the images, the leadership, those are the things that he had.
Yeah, but you can see a physical impact because of that.
Okay, now we're moving the goalpost. Now it's a physical impact.
But to me, he physically did it. Like literally, he went up, he talked, he moved sound waves. It got recorded. People can watch that. There's physical output of that.
Yeah, that's a BS to me. I mean, yes, there is evidence that he gave those speeches, but the value of what he gave is in the ideas behind them, in the leadership that went with them.
Yeah, but he had to deliver them physically, though. Like if that wasn't,
he had to
recorded,
deliver them. Yes,
he had to build them, make them, and I'm surprising that all into the build process. He had to actually walk up in front of people and be recorded and give a speech. And so that's an element of creation of some kind of output.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm saying is, unless you produce output, it's worthless.
Okay, that's a much better definition.
Yeah. And
That is
I'll
a
call
much,
that,
much,
and I'll call that build something.
right? So build implies, it doesn't mean has to be, but implies physical.
But you have to manipulate the physical world in some way to get that.
Yeah, if you manipulate people's beliefs.
But he had to do it through like a speech that was recorded, right?
Wait. What are you measuring? You're measuring the output of the recorded speeches, or you're measuring the amount of people who changed?
I'm measuring the output of his ideas in this particular case.
So in this case, where I'm measuring the impact he had on other people, that to me is the output that I would measure. Number of recorded speeches to me is irrelevant to his message.
Yeah. No, I'll do that actually. So then, but here's what I'm saying though. This is where I'm poking at you. I'm poking at you because you're saying just because you think something through and you understand it, but if there's no output, I'm saying there's no value. If there's no influence, if there's no impact, there's no value.
So basically, you're saying if I'm not gonna do anything that has an external impact to me, then I should just give up on it. There's no value to it.
I didn't say you should give up on it. I said there's no value to it. Yeah.
Well, but you're implying since there's no value to it that it's not worth doing.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just no. Because originally what I said is that I think your impact could be multitudes higher if you would produce an outcome. Because it's fun for you just to like think about it. But if you don't ship something.
I love just thinking about it.
Yeah, but then what value is that to other people?
Why does it have to have value to other people? Again, you're assuming there has to be external value.
Yeah. Yeah, or to me, it's worthless.
Why can't someone just live their life? Why do they have to add value?
Well, because that's because I say so.
Well, Scott, I added a person to the world.
See, that's value.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's where I find my value. Why do I have to take this part of it and produce an output for that has an external impact? See, again, I feel like you're placing your value system over me, and you're judging this aspect that I take this exercise and do all this, and you're saying, but it's not worth anything because you're not using it to, and so then you're giving me a judgment on this effort that I make to understand the world better.
Yeah.
The number one thing I like to do with the knowledge I have is to tell people about it. So I want my daughter to understand how the world works.
Well, so that's output then. That's doing something of value, right?
But Scott, you were talking about it not having value. I mean, why does it have to? Yeah, we started with the idea you with making something physical like the robot arm.
Yeah, right.
Now we're at a point now we're talking about output. So what is output? I want to refine that output definition.
Output is doing something that changes somebody, impacts somebody in some way. And it could be like a physical device, like an iPhone or a robot arm.
Does it have to make the world better?
Does it have to? No, it doesn't have to. But I think that's the right thing to do.
So now we got a value thing in here.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So what I want to get at is, let's go ahead and add the value, saying that in order to be valuable, all of the work you do needs to have output that impacts the world in a better way.
Yeah. I think so. Okay. Yeah.
Now you can argue how many more, how much more impact I could have. That's a different argument.
Yeah. I've already argued that. I think your impact could like exponentially increase.
Mm-hmm. So what would you think then? What are the things that you think I might build to have better output?
Well, one thing we're doing right now is we're building this podcast. That's a good thing.
Yeah, but I mean, to have better output, we want to have more impact on people, right?
Yeah.
So how do we do that?
We look at what the problems are in society and we try to solve them. Try to make it a little better. And once you get that figured out, then you focus on scale.
We look at the problems in society and try to make them better.
Yeah, because isn't that the whole reason we're here, is supposed to make the world a little better place? I mean, that's the whole essence of this whole podcast, is like build something, make something.
I think that is a very Western viewpoint, but I agree with it.
Well, that's what we talked about.
I don't think that's. I don't necessarily think that's true of all humans. I think that is a very Western philosophy.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Right. I don't think most of the people in every culture around the world think that their job is to make the world a little bit better. But I like taking the idea of when you borrow your neighbor's tools, you give them back to them in better condition than you got it.
Well, so there you go. That's adding value. That's good.
Right. So I think it's a good rule to use for everything. Right?
Yeah. Right.
You borrow someone's car, you fill it up with gas when you give it back.
Yeah,
all the little things you do to add value to a situation.
Yeah.
To me, that is. But I do think that's a very heavily Judeo-Christian, particularly Western viewpoint. I don't see that as prevalent in other cultures.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe that's why they're a problem then.
I think that's why many cultures do put up with a lot more inequality than we do. I mean, we have inequality. I'm not saying we don't, but I think that we have this viewpoint that people are supposed to be equal.
Yeah, maybe that's why we're the number one country in the world then.
Well, it depends on what you're measuring us on.
Power, influence, money, the ability to impact things.
So when we start looking at things like money, and we see that there are countries that I think per capita is higher in some other places. Education, we're pretty low. There's a lot of things we're not. We're not.
Yeah, we're jacked up. Yeah, that's because of selfishness.
I do think we've got the best overall mix of things.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, I do want to recognize that a lot of what I think how we're looking at the world is through our filter.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think the value of that is that's why you've got to build something. You need to look at the impact of what you're doing and see if it's the right belief system or not.
I got up to the point where you said belief system. What do you mean by that?
So you believe something, you have a certain value system, and then that creates a certain behavior, and you have a certain kind of output from that behavior. And I think what you can do is it's interesting to see then what's the impact of that on others. And I think if you have a positive impact on others, which you make their life a little better in some way, then that's a good thing. If you move them negative, then that's a bad thing.
If you have our value structure, then it's a good thing. If you're from a culture where it's everyone for themselves, it's not a good thing.
Well, I don't want to live in that culture then.
Yeah, but if you grew up in that culture, that's just the culture, right? Quite often when you're in a culture, that's the way you've been conditioned since you were born, so it's just the way it is.
I guess so, but I think you should be able to but a lot of people escape that because they're like, wait, this thing doesn't make sense to me. I think there's a better way.
Every man for themselves makes a lot of sense to a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's a core thing.
Even in the U.S., we got people that think that way, right? So.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, there's a better way.
If I'm successful at every man for himself, why is anything else better? So again, I agree with the idea you have. I don't necessarily agree that I can defend it, though.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter if I can defend it. That's the road I'm going to go down. And so that's my mission. That's what I'm trying to do.
But so idea, yeah. So adding value to the world seems to me the most generic thing you could say you should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that adding value could be adding people to the world. It could be adding knowledge to the world. It can be adding devices to the world. It could be, there's a lot to it. It could be adding a way to defend against things in the world. There's a whole bunch of things you can do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of interpretation because what is it that you value?
Yeah.
Right. If I value, a perfectly green world where we don't damage the earth at all, What, well, that's going to have an outcome, secondary and third level outcome on what it means to the economy and our lifestyles and all kinds of things, and how many people can live on the planet and all those types of aspects,
Yeah.
right? So, what is it that you value? So, that is probably how you manipulate people the most. You get them all to think that we need to make the world a better place, and that's what we're all going to do. But what does better mean? Better means better for me. Better means better for that group. Better means better for all of us. I think the problem you've got right now with politics in the U.S. is it's always better for me. It's not better for everyone.
Yeah, well, that's the core problem is selfishness. That's always been the problem through the history of the world is some kind of selfishness.
Well, and it makes you wonder: is that the default human?
That's the default nature of a human. Yeah. Human beings at their core, certain parts of them are just evil, horrible things, actually. I mean, I heard
So,
Andrew Bustamante talking about that. He's like, listen, I've been all over the world and there's evil in the world. There's just some really bad people.
so my question to you is it evil in the sense of the straight biblical good and evil, or is that everyone is good and evil and some people just side on the evil?
Yeah, some people are good and evil. I think it's both built in. Probably some people have it stronger than others. And basically, what we should do for the real evil people, I mean, the people that like hurt other people in masses, they need to be killed.
Okay, don't they get killed?
Not always. Not with the Democrats, they let them loose.
What are you talking about?
Like rapists. I mean, just people that have been committed from crimes over and over and over again. They never get punished in a way that basically society is never protected from them, which is kind of a problem. So they prey on the weak. And so the stronger people need to say, no, you're not going to prey on weak people anymore. Either we're going to lock you up permanently or we're going to kill you. One of the two.
So no one can be redeemed.
I didn't say that. There's some people that know they can't be redeemed. They're so far down. Yeah,
So
right.
how are you going to distinguish between the person who does something evil who's redeemable and who's not?
At some point, if they keep doing the same thing over and over again, it doesn't really matter if they're so dangerous that they've got to be eliminated. Like for
Doesn't
instance,
matter. You said it doesn't matter if they're redeemable or not.
yeah, right, and they right at some
So
point,
now
right?
it's just now it's not an ethical viewpoint or a moral viewpoint. It's a social value judgment.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like let's say you have a person who rapes a kid, right? And somehow you try to redeem him. And they say I'm fixed, and then maybe it's 20 years later and they come out and they rape another kid. And then okay, we try to redeem him and they rape another kid. It's like, okay, that's it. You know, at some point you got to stop. It's like we're not doing round 4. We shouldn't have done round 3. We shouldn't have done round 2. But, you know, you don't know 100%
So
sure at
where are
that
you
point.
drawing the line as deciding someone is irredeemable?
Yeah, I
Or
don't
is
know.
it, sorry, no, you're not even saying they're irredeemable. You don't care if they're redeemable.
Yeah, because they're too dangerous. Yeah.
So where do you draw that line?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it one death? Is it two deaths? Is it 12 deaths? Is it 1,000 deaths?
I don't know.
So,
Maybe if some,
so
I don't know.
I get your argument. I don't think it's a viable argument though, because again, it requires a level of understanding of the individual that I don't think we're able to apply fairly.
Yeah. Is it fair? Is it fair for the individual? I don't care if it's fair for the individual or not. Once they've crossed a certain line, once they've committed such horrible things to a certain number of people, it's no longer about them. Now we got to protect you. We got to protect everybody else from you.
So, well, won't God punish them?
God will punish them, yes,
Why don't you let just God handle it then?
because they do too much damage in the meantime. And so that's all through the Bible is that you got to protect. You know, that's why the shepherd and the sheep, you protect the sheep from the wolf.
So basically, you're saying everyone's sheep, and we need a ruling class of people who will make these decisions.
Ideally, but they make bad decisions because they get too selfish. They become
So,
the
so, so
problem.
I think the problem here is I've got a viewpoint that we, in Western civilization, particularly in America, we have a viewpoint of individual rights and individual people can make their own decisions, blah, blah, blah. You're responsible for your own decisions,
Yes, right.
all of that sort of thing, right? But at the same time, we're saying, but we want people to make decisions for us too. And they're going to make decisions for us on, who to imprison, who to kill, who to do whatever. And that's where
Yeah,
society comes
yeah.
along, right?
That's called representative democracy, right?
In some ways, I think that evil, anything that's overly evil gets taken out over time. It does.
Yeah, right.
Something will wipe it out.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when you made the comment of we should just kill people who are evil, I'm like, that's a tough call for me to make. I want them out of society. I would love to.
yeah. Because they're too dangerous. Yeah, right.
I would love to take them out of society and not have them there. I think that they shouldn't be able to procreate. I think there's a whole bunch of other things that go in with all of this stuff. But it's really difficult for me to think of the idea that, in principle, I get it. In implementation, I don't.
Well, yeah, that's why we have laws and courts, and you can have the same offense in two different courts and get different outcomes. It's very complicated, actually. But at some point, the vast bulk of people will say, okay, that's way across the line. Like, let's say, for instance, somebody's hungry and he steals some bread from somebody else. It's like, okay, you didn't really do the right thing, but we kind of get why you did it. Your punishment is going to be very, very minor, and we're going to try to help you because we understood why you did it, right? We kind of got it. And maybe society didn't treat you well.
Someone could do something horrible and we understand why they did it. We're really good at understanding why someone molests people or tortures people. I mean, we can talk about their horrible upbringing. We being able to understand why someone does something is not to me an excuse to allow it, no matter what.
No,
so
no,
I don't care. So I think you might look at what is the impact of a theft. Did they steal a loaf of bread versus did they steal someone's, you steal someone's card versus did they steal someone's bank account? Those are all different levels. And if you want to then judge them based upon the impact, I get that. But the crime is the crime, no matter what.
Well, the crime is their crime, but it's also the reason why they did it, right? So let's say they were just super hungry, they were down on their luck, and they did this crime. We're like, okay, that person is redeemable in the sense that, look, if we help them, the only reason they did it because they were super desperate, right? So if we help them and teach them how to fend for themselves, it's like they probably wouldn't do that. That's like just one model. There's another model that says, listen, I just like hurting kids because I just get off on it. It just gives me pleasure. That's a different person, and they need to be treated differently.
So, again, when it comes to implementation, understanding why someone did something is going to be difficult to do. You can have two scenarios where someone kills someone else.
Yes.
One is a hate crime and one, we talked about this. One is a hate crime and one is not.
Right.
In either situation, the impact is the same. Someone is dead.
Somebody is dead. Yeah, but the reason why they did it matters, actually. Like,
yeah, so one of them is I'm just robbing you because I want your money and I ended up killing you.
Yeah, right.
The other is I selected you because of your race, your gender, your whatever.
Yeah, that's a different
but the same thing is I go in and I rob you and I end up killing you in the process.
Yeah, right.
What's the difference from a crime standpoint, from an outcome standpoint?
From that outcome, there is no difference, right?
Okay,
it's the question here is what's the likelihood of you doing it again?
That's a different thing.
That's the likelihood.
I would say in both situations you're likely to do it again.
It depends on what this case is, right? So let's say somebody breaks into your house and kills one of your kids and you shoot them and you kill them, right? It's like that.
But
person,
Scott, that wasn't the scenario I gave you. I didn't give you a self-defense scenario.
I know, but I'm saying I'm giving that scenario. That person,
to me, that's too clear cut. I want to have a situation here where we have two criminals.
Yeah.
And they both killed someone when they robbed them.
Yeah.
One of them just chose for random reasons this person or because they're rich or whatever. Right. And the other person chose them because of some kind of a bias, because of some kind of a prejudice.
Yeah, I mean, those are not hugely different. I mean, one's a little more evil actually. So I think it depends on how much evil there is.
So how do you judge evil? How does a society create a system that judges evil in a way that you can then punish people based upon your
That's called the
level of
court
evil?
system. We do that and we design it. It's designed that way, and it
And
happens every single
no, it's not called the
day.
court system. How does the court system do it?
Well, based on laws, we have a set of laws
We have a
actually.
set of laws. So
Yeah, and
laws then basically are based on ethics.
based on the
Morals.
implementation of what we think is ethics, right? Exactly.
That's what they're supposed to be. That's not
what
what
they're
they
supposed to
are
be.
right now, but that's
Yeah.
what they're supposed to be.
But that's the intent of it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we've got the law that does it. Why what are you arguing for as far as the law is there? You're saying
Well,
that one administration doesn't enforce it and the other one does?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that what you're
right.
saying?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's people. As soon as you get people involved, people do things their own way.
Well, I know, but that's why we have a constitution. Actually, it's like, so you can do certain things, but the Constitution is the overriding document.
But Scott,
This is
you
how
read the
things run.
Constitution one way, I read the Constitution another way, and we're not gonna agree on it 100%.
Well, no, not 100%, but we get the basic idea. Like the basic idea is, right, is free speech. Hey, you can say stuff, and even you can say negative stuff against the government, and that you won't be killed. You did that in China.
And yet
you may be
states are
killed.
given a certain amount of power in the Constitution.
Yes,
And basically, each state can figure out their own rules on murder. So if one state has loose rules on murder and another state has strict rules on murder, then you could actually have someone who who commits the exact same crime in one state go to jail or or get a death penalty in another state may be let go.
Yeah, that's very different actually. But in the extreme examples, like if somebody gets up and says, I don't like the president and I think he's a horrible person and he's a bad idea, in no court in the whole land will that person be killed for that, because we have the First Amendment. In other countries, you will be.
Oh, well, I would say in no court in no part of this land will the government kill you.
Yeah, right, exactly. The laws will say that, okay,
The problem we have today is social media just bypasses government.
Well, you could. Yeah, no, that's a different problem. But I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the rules of the land says you're allowed to sit, within reason, you can criticize them. Now, you can't threaten harm against them. And that's a different thing. But if you say, look, I just don't like your policies and I think you're a horrible person and I don't like your hair, it's like you will not be killed for that in the United States, in any court.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing. In other countries, you can't say that. I don't know that there's even another country that you're allowed to say whatever you want to say. There's no freedom of speech.
There's a lot of countries where you can say what you want to say, but there is no freedom of speech.
Yeah, right. Which is kind of
So there's no codified freedom of speech.
yeah, right. Which is
There's
a little
only
bit of a problem.
17 countries, some small number that actually have a codified freedom of speech.
Yeah,
It's a very small number.
So, anyways, that's all I'm saying, Chris. But
Now, Scott, we're over time, but I wanted to
Yeah.
follow up on one thing. You said earlier you had a problem you wanted to solve. Did you want to go into it now or not?
no, because it'll take more time. Maybe next time we can go into it.
Okay.
All right. So with this, regardless of what Chris says, Chris is 100% wrong. It's like, I want all the people watching this to go build something, to make something. And Chris, I'd actually prefer you to go make something as well, too.
Like what?
Anything. Do an art, make a picture, write an article, post it on LinkedIn.
I'm repairing an air vent in the house. I've got gardening to do. I've got some weeding to do. I've got to figure out. I got to do some asbestos testing on some popcorn within a ceiling, and I got things to do.
Okay,
I'm
good.
not making anything. I'm just living life.
Okay, well, I want you to make something. You have to have some kind of output.
Those aren't outputs.
They're outputs,
That's another conversation we have to have. Is the
but
quality of
not an output for others, actually. I want you to build something for other people.
It's for my tenant, but okay.
Okay, there you go. There you go. All right, man. With that, like,
All right.
subscribe,
comment, whatever.
tell Chris why he's wrong and how
Give us
can he
topics
improve
to talk
himself.
about. Tell Scott that he's being hypocritical by saying everything's physics but not.
Yeah,
Whatever.
definitely. Yeah, exactly. And for the one guy who made a comment about I'm an idiot on physics, you should come on the show because I think that'd be perfect to talk about that.
Yeah. Physics is
because I am an idiot. There's no question.
My understanding of physics is 30 years old. So
yeah, exactly. All right. And a lot of it's still good, Ben. I mean, if you got it right, you got it right. It could be 100
classical
years old,
physics is still classical physics.
I know. It still works. We can still land a man on the moon based upon that. We don't need anything fancy. Yep. All right.
All righty.
That with Chris, we're going to stop the recording. See you guys.